Hi, everybody, and welcome to ETM 521, Culturally Reflective Instruction. In this presentation, we will start with some introductions and begin the process of getting to know each other. We will have a course overview so that you can identify the expectations for the course and begin thinking about what you need to succeed. And then finally, we will clarify how we are going to engage with our content in terms of discussions. First, we'll start with some introductions. My name is Heather Uhanic. It rhymes with panic, which is something that I don't do very often. Currently, my day job, I'm a coordinator of district-wide professional learning in Montgomery County Public Schools, Maryland. I've been designing and teaching courses in multicultural ed and related fields since 2009. And I'm a co-founder of the Equity and Excellence Certificate program here at McDaniel College with my amazing partner, Dr. Elena Murray. I've been in Montgomery County Public Schools for 25 years, and most of my classroom experience is with eighth graders in a variety of subjects. I call myself an anti-racist in progress because I believe it takes daily reflection because I've been programmed to replicate the systems in our society in my interactions with students and with my fellow educators. I agree with Dr. Ibram Kendi when he says that every decision we make affords us a new chance to act in either racist or anti-racist ways. And I'm committed to checking myself and my decisions for alignment to my anti-racist ideals. I'm also a big fan of Dr. Bettina Love and others like her that says sometimes it's not enough just to reform a system. We need to consider how best to dismantle the racist, sexist, classist systems that kind of get in the way of our students' success. I'm a recovering perfectionist, and I believe in the goodness of people, the inherent goodness of people, and our capacity for reflection and growth. I'm hopeful that this course will provide you with many opportunities for deep introspection and reflection as you struggle to determine how well your beliefs and practices are aligned to the ideals of multicultural, culturally responsive education. When I'm not teaching or working on racial justice projects, I am a lover of thrills, horror movies, roller coasters. I love traveling, and I'm pretty much streaming music 24/7. So I want to know a little bit about you all. First, I'm going to ask you to make a slide, just like mine, on the previous slide to introduce yourselves to our class on the first time that we meet, our first sync session. And then linked in your syllabus is a Padlet that asks this question: what do I need in order to thrive in this community? So what do you need from me, your instructor? What do you need from your peers? And what do you need from yourself? And when you're thinking about that, think about what would make you walk away from class energized, not drained. You know, if somebody asked you what you've just been doing, you feel excited to tell them the work that you're engaging in. So think about that. And when you're ready, you can head over to the syllabus, which has a link to the Padlet, and it also has a link to our community slides so that you can make an introductory slide for yourself. I think it's important that there's a lot of information on the syllabus, and I know we don't read it word for word. I say we because I was the same way as a student, but I think it's important that you know my philosophy on grading and wellness. It's important to me that you know that I value your learning above everything else. And honestly, I don't find grades to be very helpful in the learning process. And I know that as a condition of my employment in the program and your participation in it as a student, it demands that I evaluate your learning using numbers and letters. I find this task nearly impossible. No letter or number can provide you with the detailed feedback that we need as learners to reflect and grow. So expect me to make a lot of comments on your assignments, and if it's not meeting standard, I'll send it back to you and say, not yet. Can you look at this and make some changes? Despite the fact it's common practice, I don't deduct points for late work. I care that you attain our course outcomes and know that the path of human learning doesn't unfold according to these arbitrary semester stop and start dates. I will stalk you a little bit more frequently as the end of the semester comes to a close and you have outstanding assignments. But I know that good work takes time and deep reflection doesn't happen overnight. Lastly, I view grades and APA formatting as representatives of the status quo in education and academia. And I hope that this course will teach you to be critical of the status quo. We should always be questioning ourselves and our practices. Why do we do what we do? Does it further the status quo or does it move us closer to equity? I know my why for grading an APA. I do because I have to, not because I choose to. Expect to see this reflected in my practices, and I apologize in advance if my value of learning for learning's sake clashes with your need for the external validation or a grade. I didn't write the health and wellness statement that's in your syllabus. Dr. Nicole Van Cleve in the Department of Sociology at Brown did. But after reading it, I felt challenged to be more explicit about how I value the individual and collective well-being of students and our program at McDaniel. I share this to publicly challenge myself to work this semester to bring my actions into alignment with my beliefs about us as a community and the importance of honoring our humanity as we engage in challenging work. Um, I value your health and well-being. I care more about you as a human than as a student. I do plan to challenge you and your worldview. There will be rigorous reading, group capture sheets and writing. And by the end of the class, I hope you feel proud of your growth and learning, much like a marathoner feels accomplished by their triumphs across the finish line. However, this work cannot be at the expense of your health and well-being. Working until exhaustion is not a badge of honor. It shows that you are out of balance. Um, as much as I can, I plan to model well-being as a value in this class. I'm hoping that you'll be able to balance a summer of whatever you are doing during this summer with our course assignments. I will encourage you to have fun and celebrate even the small moments of joy of being a learner. Audre Lorde once said, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. Please see your wellness as an act of power and perseverance. Hold each other accountable, hold me accountable. One of my biggest regrets in education is that none of my professors gave me permission to take breaks or ask for help. I plan to do that with you all and with myself. It's okay to ask for help and it's okay to need a breather. So let's dig a little bit more into our course. If you've taken classes at McDaniel before, you know that we do 8-week semesters and they are comprised of 4 2-week modules. In this course and all of the others in the Equity and Excellence program, if you are a student in that program, our first week is really focused on input, reading and listening to our content, getting a handle on the assignments. And week 2 is really about output. Now that you know a little more, writing about it, speaking about it, working on our assignments. What you'll find on the syllabus, and hopefully when you've signed up, is that on the first week of each module, we will have a live Zoom session class for 2 hours. That replaces, what would have been a face-to-face class before we were fully online. And then the second week of the course, the second week of the module, after you have had some time to read, we will have a discussion, and I'm going to get your input about what that's going to look like in a minute. So in this course, our first module is about culture. What's culture got to do with it? It's called culturally reflective instruction. So what are we talking about when we talk about culture? And then our final 3 modules each introduce a new lens to analyze our practice: a multicultural lens, a culturally sustaining lens, and an anti-racist or abolitionist lens. In each of the modules, you will have a capture sheet. In the first one, it is individual. You'll do some reading and reflecting, and then you will write a journal based on your understanding of culture and culturally reflective practice. And then in modules 2, 3, and 4, we'll do a group capture sheet. There will be multiple readings for each lens, and you will divide them up like a jigsaw. And then you will discuss what you each read and write a summary statement that integrates or synthesizes all of the ideas. In each of the modules, there will also be a self-reflective journal and a chance to apply the lens you're studying to an educational product. More about that in the Module 1 content on Blackboard. But basically, you're going to pick one thing to analyze, and you will analyze it first from the multicultural lens, then the culturally sustaining lens, and then the anti-racist or abolitionist lens. And once you've analyzed it, you're going to make upgrades or suggest how it could be changed based on what you've been learning in the class. I know that we're in a different era than when I was a student, and we have a lot of tools to help us with our writing, especially. And so I just want to be clear up front that are you using artificial intelligence to complete assignments is it's okay because it's a resource. But like any other resource, it needs to be acknowledged when you use it. I do use AI tools for brainstorming, writing outlines, drafting, sometimes even to edit my work. And that is acceptable as long as we cite the AI that we've been using. In your syllabus, there is a couple samples how you can cite it with an acknowledgement statement that you can attach to any assignment, or you can do it through an APA citation. So again, I find it acceptable to use AI as long as it is being acknowledged and as long as you're using it for brainstorming, outlining, drafting, editing, but not to produce the entire body of your work, especially not without acknowledgement, as that would be plagiarism. I also use Google Docs in this class. And so your journals and your capture sheets will be forced copy Google Docs, which means when you click on the link, it's going to ask you, do you want to make a copy? You're going to say yes, make a copy. And then when you have your own document, I need you to share permission with me. It doesn't have to be editing permission. Suggesting is fine, but then I can write comments directly on your documents. So if we're going back and forth and doing revisions on something, it's a lot easier if I have access rather than having to make a copy or download it. So please make sure that when you're using your Google Doc that you give me permission to edit or suggest. You may have noticed there is no textbook for this class, and that is deliberate because CRSE, or Culturally Responsive Sustaining Education, is constantly evolving. It is comprised of many, many different fields of study: culturally relevant pedagogy, culturally responsive teaching, multicultural education, racial identity development, and so many more. So one book would not be able to keep up with the volume of theories and literature that are constantly being produced in this field. So you will have links to open source materials to interact with as we go. Discussions. Okay, we have a choice to make here because like I said earlier, week 1 of the class, we do have a 2-hour live Zoom class, and you will spend the rest of the week reading and thinking about your assignments. And then week 2 is when you actually produce something. So now that you've read, what are your reflections? What are you thinking about the content? And so I wanted to give you input on how we will do our discussions. So this is an example on the screen of a capture sheet. So what you'll find is there are 4 or 5 different tasks, and you will be in a group and you'll sign up to tackle one of the tasks. Then Other people will sign up, so you'll have 4 or 5 people in your group, and you need to share what you've learned with your group because you've all taken on different tasks. The end of the capture sheet asks you to work as a group to synthesize what you've learned. So we need to decide if you would rather have these discussions on Blackboard or on Zoom. So if we have them on Blackboard, the pros are that you can participate 24/7 on your own time. You can log into Blackboard whenever your schedule allows it, and you can contribute to the discussion that way. Sometimes it's easier to interact with people you don't know very well via the internet or text rather than face-to-face. A downside of Blackboard is that you need to log in and check and respond throughout the week. And sometimes people can get discussion board fatigue. If you're using Blackboard for discussions in a bunch of classes, sometimes it just quite honestly gets tiring. Something we've done in Montgomery County with our courses is instead of Blackboard, we've done live Zoom discussions. So what that means is that in a module, the first Monday or Tuesday of the first week, you'd have that 2-hour live class. And then the next Monday or Tuesday, you would come to the same Zoom for 25 to 30 minutes, and you would just share your task with your group mates. I'd put you in breakout rooms, and you would talk through what each of you read and write your summary statement, and then you're done. So the beauty of that is that you don't have to log in frequently to check and respond. You just come to that discussion Zoom session, and then you're done. That's also kind of a con of that model is that it's one set time a week. So you can't log in whenever you want to work on your discussions. You have to come to that pre-scheduled session. So I will ask your input at our first class about which style you would prefer for our discussions. Finally, feel free to reach out whenever you need support. I would much rather you over than under communicate. You can email with me. Sometimes my email gets a little bit like a jungle. So if for some reason I haven't responded to you, please feel free to text me. I will never get annoyed. If you just hit me up and say, "Did you get my email?" That's fine. I'm a little slower after 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm an early bird. And on weekends, I'm trying to have some work-life balance. The best time is probably 7 to 9 morning. But again, feel free to just email or text. I don't want you to stay confused. And it's my job to be here for what you need. So I will see you all in our first live class soon.